Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Keep It Private. This one is quite an exciting episode because this is probably one of the wildest experiences in my social media career. I hate that word, but you know what I mean. This is the story of me and my closest friends living in a TikTok house together. It was called the Wave House. It gained 2 million followers in the first few weeks and 200 million views, which was wild. And the whole audience of that account believed that we were all part of a secret cult. So that was exciting. We stayed in a £30,000 mansion, kindly paid for by our management. But there was a lot going on behind the scenes that I have not told the internet yet. Here we go. So as a lot of you guys might remember, back in around 2019, it was the period of time for the TikTok houses. You had the Hype House, which was the main one in the US. And I think there was at least 10 TikTok houses in the US, but there were none in the UK. There was a huge gap for it in the UK. So me and my closest friends, which was me, Carmi, Spencer, Kate, Jimbo and Eloise, we all joined forces and pitched the idea of a TikTok house to a management company, and they accepted the idea, which was the beginning of a very wild roller coaster. So what happened was we all kind of put our heads together and tried coming up with a plan for this TikTok house. We knew it couldn't be something ordinary. We wanted to bring something new that hadn't been done before with all these TikTok houses, because they all seem to be a pretty generic, I guess, or repeatable. So Jimbo and Eloise were the ones that actually came up with the idea of the mask reveals. So basically what the idea was that we were all going to hide our identities after announcing this TikTok house, and we would all wear studded masks, like these studded diamond masks, and one by one we would reveal our identities to the world and just go from there really and see what would happen. So Jimbo and Eloise are really switched on with that kind of stuff. So they actually had the idea for the mask reveals, and then we were constantly on like Zoom calls, etc., just discussing ideas and what the plan would be. And then we pitched it to a management company. They actually already managed Jimbo and Eloise at the time. And so we brought the idea to them and they were really interested and wanted to get on board with it. And so things just escalated pretty quickly because they had such a vision for this, the management company, especially after we mentioned the mask reveals, that they said to us, you know what, this can't be simple. If you're going to do the mask reveals and going to do it like that, then we need to put you guys in an insane house. So we didn't really know what to expect with all this, but then the management began sending over house listing options, and oh my god, these were just mansions, like huge mansions in the UK. And after going through them one by one, which was the most exciting thing ever as well, we'd be like sharing screens, going through the Rightmove listing, being like, ugh, not good enough. And it'd have like 5 pools, 12 bedrooms, but we were like, doesn't fit the vibe. We finally settled on this house in Essex, and it was £30,000 a month to rent. And the management got it for us to rent for 3 months as a little trial run period to see how things went. This house had 4 bedrooms. It had a library. It had an outhouse, which had a pool and an entire spa area with a jacuzzi. It had a studio room up top in this outhouse. And don't even get me started on the land in this house. Oh my God. It had a front garden, which was not even a front garden because it was basically like God knows how many acres. It had an entire lake in the front garden and then a side lake. There was also 500 Christmas trees growing in the back garden of this house, alongside hundreds of pear trees, orange trees. Are orange trees a thing? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just checking. There we go. And they also had just an entire orchid going on. It was the most insane house. Also, it had a £30,000 TV in the living room. a huge kitchen. It had a whole gym as well, of course, because I say 4 bedrooms and it's like, oh, 4 bedrooms, like pretty basic. But these bedrooms were pretty insane, especially Jimbo and Eloise's room, or what ended up to be their room. They had the master bedroom, which was in the attic. And you walk in and they have the main bedroom area. And then either side, you have his and her rooms, which was basically each side had its entire own like getting ready room. So it had just a huge walk-in wardrobe with like, you know, when they have the thing in the middle where you can put all your watches and jewelry and stuff, it was just insane. And then also you walk through on both sides, by the way, you walk through the dressing rooms, like the his and hers dressing rooms, and each side has their own bathroom, which was like a huge bathtub in the middle. Eloise's had a huge bathtub in the middle, a shower, so much space. And then Jimbo's also had a bath, and it was a more dark version of the hers side. Like the hers side was very angelic, and then the his side was like all dark, black, shiny. It was insane. For everyone watching on YouTube, I'm going to be inserting pictures and videos throughout this so you can see what the house looked like. If you don't already know, I don't know how many of you guys were here for the Wave House era, but if not, you're getting the full story time now. And if you were, you're still getting the full story time because there was a lot that went on behind the scenes that I've never ever told online. Aside from the house itself costing £30,000 a month and just being an insane mansion in Essex with a £30,000 TV in the living room, they also hired a chef, and he was known as the Wave House chef. He even ended up creating his own TikTok account, but we had a chef that would cook for us 3 times a day and just make us insane meals. The whole thing was just wild. So, moving into the house. So we move into the house, and obviously we had the idea for the Wave House mask reveals. But before we got onto those videos and revealing our identities, we obviously created a little bit of hype first. So the first video that we posted was just a tour of the house, being like new TikTok house coming in the UK, and it was just a compilation video of what the house looked like, and it had this song over the top, which was like such a song back in those TikTok days. It was like, I like you, I don't give a fuck about your boyfriend, that one. What a time. I genuinely miss that era so much. Like that was such a good fucking era, having all of that, like just old TikTok. Bring it back, please. I'm missing the renegade. So basically we moved in. That was the first video. And then the second video, we just got a little bit more wild because what happened was we ended up hiring a helicopter to come and land on the driveway. And also we got Bobby Moore, who's another TikToker, to come over and basically be the presenter and get out of the helicopter and showcase everyone that was going to be in the house. So the people that were in the house were me, Jimbo, Eloise, Kate, Carmi, and Spencer, and obviously me as well. So I think that was 7 of us in total. And how we did this was once the helicopter landed, all the girls walked out on one side in little dresses and all the guys walked out on another side in suits. And obviously we were all wearing these studded masks, which was concealing our identities. That video itself got like a lot of traction. As soon as we posted the house tour for the UK TikTok house, like that blew up in the first hour kind of thing. I can't remember how many views exactly it got, but it did pretty well. I'm pretty sure it got like 25k likes or something in a day.
And to post.
2, 1.
Oh no. Okay.
And then once we did the helicopter landing reveal, that boosted it even more. But nothing could have prepared us for what took place when we did the actual mask reveals. So with these mask reveals, we had an idea that we would go one by one and in everyone's individual way, however that person wanted to reveal their identity, like the management and us, like we all made it happen. So Eloise's mask reveal went first. And hers was a milk bath reveal. So I'll be inserting the clips from the TikTok throughout this podcast episode. So if you're listening, sorry, you might have to use your imagination a bit. But if you are watching on YouTube, you'll see them on screen. Basically, Eloise's milk bath reveal, she was in a milk bath in a dress and there was like rose petals all on the bath, and then there were the other members, which were the guys, in their suits and also in their masks, like pouring milk into the bath. The whole thing looked very cultish. But it was pretty cool. We knew that these mask reveals were very pretentious, but at the same time, you know what I mean? You got to bring something new. We weren't really prepared for the reaction of the internet, though. That kind of took us by surprise. Anyway, it was crazy because we posted Eloise's mask reveal, and when we posted it, within the first half an hour, it was on something like 60,000 views, right? And we were already like, what the hell? This is wild. And then what we all decided to do, obviously we all lived together, so we went out for Nando's like that night. We always had Nando's, still do, love a Nando's. And we all went to Nando's, had the meal, and all agreed to not check the stats whilst we were having our meal. And so none of us checked to see how the video was doing until afterwards. So we left it for like an hour and a half or something like that. And then after we'd finished our Nando's, we went back into the car park. And I remember it was just before we got back into like my car, we checked to see what the video was on. And literally within an hour and a half, the video had gone up to something like 12 million views, 6 million. I think it was 6 or 12 million views. But we saw the stats and we all went absolutely crazy. Like we were running around the car park to let off steam, like literally sprinting across the car park, just yelling, being like, oh my God, what the hell, what the hell? Like we could not believe it.
Disgusting.
It's literally been about 45 minutes and the video's just hit 1.1 million.
I'm the star of the show.
We just kept doing the mask reveals. Obviously, the first one was done, which was Eloise's mask reveal. And then after that, like 1 to 2 days later, we separated each mask reveal by like a day or two. It was then Jimbo's mask reveal. And for Jimbo's mask reveal, we hired these, what are they called? Like not guard dogs, but like police dogs, basically. And Jimbo had a whole smoke bomb and had his identity covered, walked through these police dogs, which were barking and being held by these security guards that also had their identities concealed with their masks, even though they weren't part of the house. It was for the video aesthetics. And then at the end, Jimbo revealed his identity. That got millions of views as well. And then after that, it was Kami's mask reveal. And for Kami's mask reveal, what we did was we got a fake Mona Lisa online, like a canvas printout of the Mona Lisa. Looked kind of real, actually. And for his mask reveal, he got a knife and basically cut through the Mona Lisa and then put his head through the painting, like replacing her head, took the mask off. And that was his mask reveal. And I think he had a 6ix9ine song over the top as well. It was like, he's mad, I'm back, who's mad? It was actually so iconic. I kind of miss those days. And it was so intense filming Kami's mask reveal because basically we had one take, like it was a one-hit wonder, because if we messed this up, we would have had to order the canvas again and like wait for it to arrive. We really played with fire, like just ordering one, but it went absolutely perfect. All of these mask reveals were absolutely perfect in the first take, which was crazy. And then after that, it was Kate's mask reveal. And to do her mask reveal, she basically just dived into the pool that was in the outhouse of the house. And then when she surfaced from the water, she took her mask off. And then after that, it was Spencer's mask reveal. And for his, we hired a snake, which was hilarious because like literally snakes were his worst nightmare ever. He was so scared. Like when you watch the video, he's acting so chill with this huge snake like draped around his neck. But if you saw the behind the scenes, he was literally crying like a little girl beforehand. It was hilarious. But that was such a good mask reveal. And then he was sat on a throne as well. And then I think it was me and Kate stood side by side, like next to him on the throne. And then for the final mask reveal, then it was moi. That was mine. And for that one, it was basically a Cinderella horse and carriage. And we hired this like insane horse and carriage with these white horses, and they pulled up. I got out of the horse and carriage with like a long fur coat on. And then I took the fur coat off, and one of the other members of the house, like one of the guys in their mask, like took it and stood there like a security guard. And then I walked towards the camera and took the mask off. I think I had the hills by the weekend over the top of it as well. are.
Okay, Millie.
Oh, thank you so much. Is it like Narnia vibes?
It's like Cinderella, it's like a hot version of Cinderella.
We've just filmed my reveal and I think it actually went sick. I'm the final reveal. There's 6 reveals altogether, obviously, because there's 6 people, and I'm the very last one.
After doing all these mask reveals over the duration of about a week or a week and a half, the page had blown up. Like, we were already on 2 million followers and the whole page had about 200 million views already. It was absolutely wild. What we weren't prepared for was the reaction of the internet, though. We obviously didn't know how people were going to take this, but the internet is a mean place. Like, damn. But it was also quite funny at the same time, like the kind of things that they were saying about us. Actually, not for Eloise. Eloise's mask reveal, she got a lot of hate comments on hers, like about her appearance and stuff like that. And like people on all of our mask reveals, people were commenting things like, put it back on, like basically calling us all clapped. So thanks for that, guys. But it was just crazy. Everyone also thought that we were a cult and all this kind of stuff. And oh my God, don't even get me started on the press, what they had to say about it. So like I said, we had no idea what to expect in terms of the reaction from the public, but we attracted a huge US audience to begin with. And obviously, I feel like in the US, they don't really know much about the UK other than Harry Potter and like say a bottle of water. Like that is literally all I got when I lived in LA. And also like being a UK TikTok house and having such a big American audience, that is literally what they commented, Harry Potter. And also they commented being like, daddy's money, like these rich British kids just living off daddy's money. Like, do you think there's 7 siblings or something like that? Like, what is going on? But we just kind of let the internet think whatever they wanted to. Everyone was genuinely so confused with what we were. Like, people were calling us a cult as well. Like, people were just trying to figure out what we were. And oh my God, the press. So they just had a field day with this. Let me read out some titles of what the press titles were for the announcement of the TikTok house. Also, it was mainly like the Daily Mail and stuff. Like they have a lot to say. Like they just talk the most shit. Anyway, titles included the middle class wannabes who will do anything for 15 seconds of fame. That was the first one. Another one included, this house is a bid for fame as nobody knows who they are. This next one was the factory farm for TikTok fame. Yeah, like duh. Thanks though. So already it was getting a mixed reaction, but I'm going to go into what life in the house was like. So I'm sure a few of you guys might be intrigued on that. So what was a bit wild was that when we pitched this idea to the management, we thought that it would just be all of us living together and that was it. Like a group of friends living together, it'd be really chill and like they would trust us to just do the content and all that because obviously we were the ones that came up with the mask reveal ideas. We were motivated for this. So we thought that they'd just kind of pay for the house and leave us to our own devices, other than obviously having meetings and all that kind of stuff. But what we didn't expect was that they would have an in-house manager that lived with us 24/7. So that took us by surprise. Like we moved in there and it wasn't really agreed upon beforehand, but once the house was confirmed and stuff, they were like, oh yeah, by the way, you're going to have a in-house manager that will live with you and she's going to have her own room. So we were like, okay. She also ended up dating one of the guys in the management team. So like she ended up having a boyfriend over there that she'd always have over. And it was just like, they'd be like having dinner in the kitchen and stuff. And it was actually just quite wild, but also iconic. It was actually quite intense though, because aside from having a house manager living with us, what also happened was that if any of us had guests over, they would have to hand over their ID and sign an NDA. So that was a bit much. Do you know what I mean? I remember Will and E came over to film a video on the Wave House. And when he came over, as soon as he walked in, they were like, before you start filming, like we need you to sign an NDA. And I remember listening to this thinking, oh my God, what? Like this, like you just don't do that. Do you know what I mean? I was like, what are you, like you doing, you guys are doing the most. Like we don't need these NDAs and stuff like that. Like also the thing is they did the worst thing by saying that because when Will and E came over with his whole camera crew, they said, we need you to sign an NDA. But obviously the camera crew were already filming at that point. So I was like, now you've just caught on camera, you guys asking him to sign an NDA. And that just looks worse than him saying something and not signing the NDA. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, anything he could potentially say, Like, you've just made it even worse because now he can mock the idea that you've just made him sign an NDA. It was too much. Like, they just made everyone that came over sign an NDA and give away their IDs and stuff like that. Something wild that happened whilst I was in the house was we got yelled at by management, or I did mainly, for God's sake. Basically, Ben Morris had come over on a Saturday, obviously had handed over his ID that they took a picture of. He also signed the NDA, and he had brought with him his cat. They hadn't said anything to us about not having pets over or whatever. Like, we just didn't really think twice about it. And so Ben Morris brought his cat, and the house manager didn't react at the time. Like, she had no reaction to it. I thought everything was completely fine. And the cat basically, for a few hours, stayed in my bedroom and was just like under the bed and just chilling. You know what I mean? Like, just having a good little time. The weekend went through, and then Monday came around. Oh my God, all hell broke loose in the house. So one of the guys at the management company came through, and he was older than us. Actually, looking back, not even that much older than us, to say that, like, the way that he spoke to us. So he comes in and he yells. Like, he was swearing, effing, blinding at us. He was like, I can't fucking believe you guys would do this. Bringing over a pet to the house. Are you not fucking serious about what we're doing? Look at this. Look at what we're doing. Oh my God. And we were all just sat there in shock. I could not believe this guy was talking to us like this. I was like, oh my God, it's really not that deep. Like, damn. And then the thing is that actually pissed me off the most. Spencer was his favorite in the house. Like, he loved Spencer because Spencer, like, was just always talking to him like a bro. Do you know what I mean? And so at the end of it, after yelling at us, especially me, because I was the one that had the cat in her bedroom, at the end of it, he finishes the whole thing by dapping Spencer up and going, big man ting. Like, okay. Anyway, I got fully yelled at. I felt like I was back in school. So that was one wild thing that happened. Aside from that, what life looked like in the house was waking up at like 8 a.m. in the morning, house manager knocking on all of our bedroom doors to wake us up. We would wake up, go down into the kitchen, and we would have a morning meeting where the house manager would be sat there with a whiteboard, and we'd be planning out all the content for the day and what we were going to film. And then that would last like an hour or so. And then after that, I remember I really wanted to get coffee every morning, like go on a little coffee run just to get out of the house a bit, because it did begin to feel a bit claustrophobic, even though I absolutely, like, the house was insane. Like, it was so unbelievable. But because we like barely ever left the house in the mornings, like, we all wanted to just like drive 15 minutes to get a coffee and then drive back. And I remember they'd be like, okay, you can do it today, just be quick. Like, it was that, like, they kind of did not want us to go get coffee in the morning. And I was like, one thing, I was like, if it's something I'm going to be a diva about, it's going to get this coffee in the morning. Like, shock horror, me being a diva. Anyway, so yeah, after that, we'd have the morning meeting. Some days we'd then be able to go and get coffee and stuff like that. And then we'd come back, and then at about 9:30, 10 a.m., we would begin filming for the day. And we would be filming content from like morning until 5 p.m. and then we'd finish filming content, and then that'd be us done for the day until the next day, kind of thing. So obviously, don't worry guys, I'm not being like, oh my God, we were worked like a dog, like up at 7 a.m., like 8 a.m., working until 5, God forbid. Like, influencer works a 9 to 5 for the first time ever. It was difficult, guys. No, I'm actually joking. It was just such an interesting setup, but living with the house manager was actually quite wild. But yeah, after 5 p.m., we'd all kind of do our own thing. I remember I'd go to the gym quite a lot, because there was a gym in the house, which was insane. And they also had a spa area with a jacuzzi and stuff like that. And the thing is, like, I loved going in this jacuzzi, but then, like, I'd have to be careful because the people that work for the management obviously loved the house because it was an insane house. So they wanted to experience it as well. So they'd come over and use like the facilities and stuff like that. So like I'd be there in my bikini in the jacuzzi, and then these two like older men that like work for the company and then come in their like swim shorts in the sauna and like in the jacuzzi. And I was like, this is too much. So I stopped using the spa because it was just too intense. And I was like, oh, I can't do this. So with the Wave House, we were doing wild things. We were doing things that no TikTok house had done. And I guess that was like the whole idea to what we were doing with this in the first place, obviously starting from the mask reveals and everything we evolved it into after that. Some things that we did were, number one, we built an entire water park outside the house. I'll insert videos and pictures so you guys can see what I'm talking about for everyone that's watching on YouTube. If you're listening to this, then sorry, you'll have to use your imagination. But basically, we built an entire water park outside our house and built it in the garden. And then we'd film insane TikToks, like using it with masks on, masks off. Like it'd be a bit of both. We also hired a Batmobile and filmed a whole video with that. And it was like an actual Batmobile. It looked insane. We also built an ice rink in the driveway and filmed a whole video with that where we were all just like ice skating. We also built a obstacle course, and I'm not talking like just a little obstacle course. It was a whole thing, you know, like on Total Wipeout where they have those big ass red balls and you have to like jump between them and like not fall in the water. We had those in the back garden. That was one part of the obstacle course. It was absolutely huge. We also recreated Jurassic Park and got like life-size dinosaurs and stuff like that. It was wild. And we also built a skate park in the driveway. And there was more. There was more than that. That's just to name a few. Another thing that took place over the first like few weeks or first month or so was that the management company and us wanted to expand this because obviously it was doing insane numbers online. And so what happened was they ended up getting a reality TV crew over. And so our entire days were being filmed and we were on like a Kardashians. It was like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but Keeping Up with the Wave House. But it was actually called The Truth Behind the Mask. But I think we deaded that after a few weeks because it was just too intense. It was clashing too much. But actually, I think it just didn't get as many views as we'd hoped. That was probably why we didn't carry on doing it. But it was also like very intense to have that in the house. But I don't really know what happened with that. And then it began to go a bit downhill from there because management had gotten a lot of investors on board behind the scenes. And we didn't really know about this. Obviously, we weren't too aware of what was going on behind the scenes like that. But obviously, we as the creators had always had the creative direction. So the whole mask reveal idea, the videos, the ice rink, the skate park, everything like that was all our ideas. Because when we had the morning meetings, it was always us as creators putting our minds together and coming up with the ideas. And what happened was, obviously, like I said, we were getting a lot of hate from the internet, but it was kind of like a love-hate thing. We were getting hate, but it wasn't serious hate because it was just people calling us a cult, saying that it was daddy's money, being like, we don't even know who you are, like all that, because it was all the American audience. Like they don't know anything outside of America for the most part, especially when it came to like UK creators and stuff like that. So when I go to LA and stuff like that, no one has ever even heard of the Sidemen. And I'm like, you guys live in your own bubble. It's crazy. Anyway, so as creators or whatever, when we'd have these meetings, like all of us in the house, we would basically say that the best thing for us to do is to play into this. That's why we do TikToks and stuff being like, so it comes to our acknowledgement that you guys saw the last video and thought this. And then it would be like royal music playing in the background and stuff. Like we were just kind of taking the piss with it a little bit, but we were having fun because at the end of the day, it wasn't that serious. Do you know what I mean? But the best thing to do was like, rather than fight the hate comments, was just play into it even more, you know, get the internet more pissed off, if anything. And so we wanted to take this to the extreme as creators. And we had an idea, which was that we would basically create a whole series where we would burn expensive items. So we filmed the first video for this, and the video was insane. So like in terms of the cinematics of it, because what happened was, we filmed this video where we all stood in a circle like a cult. Because in the back garden, by the way, like in the orchid area or just like out the side of it, it basically had like a geometric cult ground, which is actually a little bit weird looking back. But it had this like huge birdhouse in the middle on like a stick. And it was closed off by bushes, like surrounding it in a hexagonal shape. And then on the floor, there was like low-key like geometric shapes carved into the floor. So we were like, what is going on here? Do you know what I mean? Like, what has been taking place here? It looked very cult vibes. So we just used that and played into it. And what happened was we lit a fire in the middle of it. So we had this huge burning fire. And we filmed this video where we were all in our masks. And it had what's it called? And it had sinister music in the background of this video. And what we did was we passed this Prada bag around one by one. And then at the end of the video, we just threw it into the fire. And it landed so perfectly in the fire as well that like the strap perfectly hooked over like one of the sticks in the fire, and it just burnt so beautifully. And we, as the creators, really wanted to post that because we wanted to just annoy the internet. And what we were going to do was keep doing that with progressively more expensive items and more outlandish ideas and just get the internet so triggered. And then at the end of it, we wanted to just do a 180-degree twist, because at the end of all these videos, we were going to say like something's like, we'd put a date, basically just a date. And then on that date, there was going to be a big reveal. And that big reveal was going to be that everything we burnt was fake. Like the Prada bag, for example, that was fake. I think it cost like £5 from a market. I can't remember. I think we got it from Camden Market or something like that. It was fake anyway. And so we wanted to just basically do that. And then at the end of it, be like, don't believe everything you see. It's not that serious. Like, you guys are kind of the ones that fell for this. But then we were also going to donate all the money that the stuff that we burnt would have cost. We were going to donate all that money, like the original prices of what they would have cost, even though they were all fakes. We would have donated the sum total of what they should have cost to a charity that we were like deciding on. So we had this whole vision and idea for it, but like we were just prepared and willing to get the internet triggered in the meantime before that date. And we really wanted to do that. And we told the management, being like, this is what we want to do. And then we filmed the video. And because they had all these investors on board, they came back and was like, no, you're not doing that. You can't do that. You can't do that because the investors don't like the idea. And the investors would rather you guys do this and do that. And that was when we were all like, whoa, you know, because it felt like we had all the creative rights to everything, and we were the ones coming up with the ideas. Because of our ideas and like all of us as creators coming together and like putting our minds together, we got this page 2 million followers in a few weeks, and also 200 million views in a few weeks, and it was only going up, and it was on such an upwards trajectory. And then it was like, as soon as then we wanted to then say the next phase of our ideas, like for the Act 2 kind of thing, we got told no. And then we started being told like what we should be doing instead. And we didn't say no. We privately to each other was like, okay, like this isn't what we wanted it to be. You know, like I feel like we're getting censored a little bit now. And so we all felt like that straight away as soon as like we were told no to the Prada bag burning idea, which obviously when I say it like that, it's like we got told no to the Prada bag burning idea. It's like, yeah, but obviously you got to think about it in like TikTok vibes, you know what I mean? And we had like a whole idea. It was the best thing for us to do in terms of like the hate that we were getting online. Like it was kind of the only direction we could have really taken it in. Well, it's not the only one obviously, but I think it was a great idea. It was risky. It was kind of risky, but I just think it was a good idea to do. You know, you kind of got to play into it. If you can't fight them, join them. So we got told no. And I think that was the main problem, because it wasn't just that we got told no. It was that we got told no and then started getting told what we should do. And it was just completely different to the idea and the vision that we had as creators for this house. We didn't say anything out loud straight away. We kind of kept our mouths shut. But then what happened was I remember we started just kind of allowing it to go in the direction of like what the management wanted, which was us being more PG. And they were like, the management were like, just keep doing crazy ideas. And it was like, we have done crazy ideas, but like, we need to kind of take it somewhere else. Otherwise we're going to get stuck. Like we want people to get to know us as people and all this kind of stuff, rather than it just being like water park in the back garden, skate park, this, that. And so we didn't say anything straight away. We went along with the management's ideas and what they wanted us to do with it. And so we thought the best thing for us to do now, like we can do a Mario and Luigi race kart track in the back garden. And that's kind of what they wanted us to do. And I just remember this was the start of the end for me. I remember it was raining outside when we were filming this. And I got dressed as Princess Peach. So I was in a plastic tiara and like a £10 Princess Peach dress. And it was raining outside. And because we still had to film, because we'd hired it for that day. So no matter what, like we're filming, even if it's raining. I'd been outside for a few minutes, come back in. And like, I looked like a 12-year-old, first of all. My hair was wet and soaking. And I was like there in this plastic tiara. And I came in and like all of my friends, like, I remember Eloise looked at me and she was like, like laughing at me. And like everyone was, but I do not blame them at all. She was just like, really? I'm sorry. She was like, just because I know you and like what your vibe, like just seeing you like this is just sending me over the edge. And I was like, oh my God. And like Carmi was there in a like Luigi outfit. No, I think Carmi was dressed as the dinosaur. And it was just like, what are we doing? I feel like we were at a kid's birthday party. Like this is going too far now. Like I feel like it's just not the vibes, you know? But we were all dying laughing. But then the content creation just started to feel a bit stale because where we wanted it to go, we weren't allowed to take it. And it was like, there was too many people in the mix of things at this point. There was us as creators, the management company, and also the investors behind the scene. And it's like everyone wanted something different with the ideas, and that doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? The rule number one for that is that you got to leave it to the creators and only allow the creators to like come up with the creative concepts. Like that's what we're good at. You know what I mean? Like the management were the ones that took the percentages, of course, for all the brand deals and money that we brought in. And they also were the ones that like helped expand it and stuff like that. And then the investors, to be honest, I don't really know what their job is with it, investing in it, I guess. But also, it's just not creative direction. You know, like obviously they decide what to invest in and stuff, but it's like you invested in the Wave House when it was starting off and everyone was calling us a cult, and like we already had that aesthetic of people calling us rich and entitled and stuff like that. Like when we then start acting rich and entitled, like it's just internet knowledge. When you get hate comments and stuff, it's kind of like the direction you have to take it. But we were going to fool the internet into thinking that's what we were like. And then on the reveal date, we were going to do a 180 and basically be like, don't believe everything you see. All the money is like being donated. And then we were going to, as a result from that, like take our content in a completely different direction. But we kind of got hijacked in a way just because there was so many different people wanting so many different things. Like you had the investors saying we should do one thing, management saying we should do the other, and then us saying we should do another thing. So I felt like we just all felt like as creators, we got our creative rights taken away from us kind of thing. But what happened from there, I think at this point we were like 2 months in. And then from there, what happened was I actually ended up, on my side, I ended up kind of leaving the house early and taking quite a bit of time out because basically I got a call from my stepdad one of the days. So this was actually quite a big thing that happened around that time. I got a call from my stepdad, and he basically, my mum was like really ill at the time. And this was kind of like during the COVID era as well, or just coming out of it. And, oh no, it wasn't. I think it was actually in the peak of COVID. And basically I got a call from my stepdad, and he had broken the news to me that like things were taking a turn for the worst. And she was basically, like going to die in a few weeks kind of thing. So she was being put in a hospital bed in the living room of my house, so for like to live out her last few weeks. So obviously I'm like, sorry guys, deep out nowhere. But obviously I received this call and I'm like, oh my God. So I end up having to go home for like that time period. And whilst I was home, I was still staying in contact with the rest of the group and stuff. And they were letting me know what like they were planning and all this, but it just literally deteriorated from there. Like I think Kate got in a mindset where she just didn't want to do it anymore, and everyone else kind of felt similar because of, I think it was the control aspect more than anything. Like we weren't being allowed to do what we wanted to do with it, and so it felt like we were just being, it almost felt like it was on the road to us just being performing monkeys or like puppets kind of thing. And this is not the I actually do not blame the management for this, like in the sense of like the investors getting involved. It became like a three-way system and it just didn't work because it got too orchestrated, like losing the authenticity, if you know what I mean. And like just the creative spark just went away with it. And so what happened was we all kind of mutually made the decision to leave. And because it was coming to that time anyway, because obviously, like I said at the start, we had a 3 months living in this house. So the management had paid for it for 3 months. And after that, we were going to see what we were doing after that. And the management kind of left it to us to be like, do you want to keep doing it? Do you not? Like, what do you guys want? Kind of thing. And we all just kind of made a decision and was like, we don't want to keep doing this. But Jimbo and Eloise actually did want to keep doing it. And they actually ended up having a whole season 2 Wave House, but I'll get to that in a second. But we all mutually made the decision to end it. I think as well with what was going on with me, that was a big thing because, with what I was going through at the time, like obviously like my mum ended up dying then as well. So I was like, at that time, I was like, I can't just kind of snap back into it. And like, do you know, I was just in a very odd time and I already lived with Carmi and Spencer and I was just comparing it. And I didn't, for what I was going through, especially like since I was going to be grieving and that kind of stuff, I didn't want to be in a house like that intense, like living with a house manager 9 to 5, like getting up and it all being in the same house. You know what I mean? I wanted to be actually in my home house, like with Carmi and Spencer, because we lived together at the time. And I just wanted to be able to just relax and just grieve kind of thing, I guess. So I didn't want to do it. And I think everyone as a result, not just as a result of me, but they already felt like this, but I think that also added to it. We all mutually made the decision to just end that Wave House. But obviously we didn't end it and just fade it out. We came back for one last little bang on the Wave House account. And what we did to end the Wave House was we actually ended up doing the mask reveals once again. But this time we took all of our mask reveals that we did when we introduced the house. And this time we did it in a morbid funeral style. So for example, Carmi's Mona Lisa, we took the Mona Lisa that was obviously ripped apart kind of thing where he put his head through and he like spray painted over it with a sad face, and then security guards that were masked came and like dragged him out. And then for mine, I originally had the horse and carriage, like the whole white Cinderella horse and carriage. And this time I had black horses and a funeral carriage. And when my mask got taken off, like there was mascara all like down my eyes and I was like crying. So we still made it dramatic. All of the exits, literally all of us one by one, we had like all these dramatic exits. And that's how we kind of said goodbye to the Wave House. But as I mentioned before, that actually wasn't the end of the Wave House because they did end up doing a season 2, which me, Kate, Carmi and Spencer weren't involved with, but Jimbo and Eloise did carry on to do this season 2, and they hired a completely different mansion in a different location, the management, and they got other influencers on board that were part of the house. And that in itself, I mean, was a crazy experience. I think it was even more wild than season 1 in terms of the behind the scenes of what took place with everyone in the house, especially because in season 2, it was like a Big Brother house because no one really knew anyone. So everyone was testing living together for the first time, and there was shit went off in that house. Whereas with season 1, we were all such close friends already and we were such family that like we didn't really have to worry about living together in terms of dealing with each other and stuff. Anyway, it's interesting now because with the Wave House account, they've now deleted all the videos from season 2. They only have season 1 left up. So I don't really know why they did that. But yeah, season 2 also came to an end, and now all that's left is the relic of season 1 of the Wave House. But it was a really good experience. Honestly, it was insane. I look back and it feels like a fever dream, but we all do talk as a group now and we're like, we would love to do that again. But just in a slightly different setup in terms of us being able to have creative freedom and stuff like that. I think the fundamental issue was that there was too many fingers in the pie when it came to creators. management and investors. And I know that's a very normal way for it to work, but I think just with the specific setup that we had, I think the people were a bit too involved. And like, obviously I've been through that kind of experience before with having investors involved in stuff, and I'm very familiar with how that works, and we all kind of understood how that worked, but it just was very different with this. I think because of what we had going with the house, the comments we were getting on the internet, and what we wanted to do with it as creators versus what we were allowed to do. Because I think high risk, high reward, that's the mindset that we had as creators, but the investors did not want the high risk, high reward, so they wanted to play it very safe. And playing it safe resulted in me dressed as Princess Peach, looking like a 12-year-old at my birthday party. So I think that was just where it went a bit downhill, and just being taken away in terms of not having our creative freedom was a bit of an issue, but it wasn't anyone's fault. Like I said, just too many fingers in the pie by the end of it. But I am so grateful for the experience, honestly. And it was like an insane time to look back on. It really does feel like a fever dream, but just experiencing that house, like, and just even living and working in the same place was a mental experience. Obviously people work from home, but I mean more so having the setup that it was like, because just having the house manager knock on the door being like, right, get up, like, it's like, you know what I mean, it's just a wild experience. But hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to this little story time of the Wave House experience behind the scenes. I'm sure you might have learned a few new things if you'd have heard of the Wave House, but wasn't really sure why it ended or what took place. Hopefully that explains it. I was also thinking to do a future episode where I bring in everyone that was in the house to all sit down together and discuss everything and just have a little group discussion about it and answer questions. So if that's something you guys would want to see, let me know in the comments. I'd love to get that going on the podcast. I think that'd be quite interesting, so we can all share our experience and thoughts. I think it'd also be quite hilarious as well, to be fair. But thank you guys for listening to this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Keep It Private, and I will join you guys next time for a new episode. Bye guys.